and today I'm covering how to get journalists to actually write about your business. So this video is for you if you've already pitched to the press but been rejected or ignored, you're confused about how it all works, you just can't figure out how to even start to approach getting some press coverage in a magazine, or you've had some success already but you need a bit more. So I've got some easy guidance for you on this topic, how to get journalists to actually write about you. And the first one may sound a little bit controversial, but you need to stop talking about your business. Now, you might not have liked the sound of that, but just stick with me for a minute or two. Because there's really no way of putting this nicely, but journalists really aren't interested in your business. It's nothing personal, it's not about you or your business, it's just the fact that they're looking for great content for their audience, things that are going to give them some value and or entertain them or give them some learning, whatever their publication is about. And you talking about your business is not going to cover any of what I've just said. It's very much focused on you, and that's not what they're going to be interested in. You have to remember that the journalist's job is creating fantastic content for their ideal audience, and anything that they put in their publication or online or wherever that looks like it might be an advert or any kind of advertising but it isn't could land them in quite a lot of trouble, so they probably won't do it. If you want to just talk about your business in a magazine, then you're probably going to have to pay for an advert, which obviously that's not what we want to do. This is all about getting free press coverage, so let's talk about that. So the first point I want to talk about is to show, don't tell. What I mean by that is, in the features and ideas that you are pitching to the magazines, you don't want to be saying to them, I just want to talk to you about my business. What you want to do is pitch something in that shows what your business does. So if you take an example there, say you run a relocation business, helping people to relocate around the country for work or whatever. If you pitched a feature into an online portal or a magazine saying, I want to tell you about my relocation business, you're very, very unlikely to get that past the journalist that's looking at it. But for instance, if you pitch something related like why more people are relocating to Scotland, and you were talking about the benefits of being in Scotland, then that's useful information for anybody who's thinking about moving to Scotland. And you're not talking about your business, but at the end of it, you'll probably get a bio and a website link to your business, and that's worth a lot of money, really. If you have to pay for that as an advert, you pay a lot of money for it. So that's the best way to go. Just sticking with that theme, really, I was contacted by a website called Bonivo, who wanted me to write a feature for them about moving to a foreign country for work. So, you live in England, you're going to be moving to Switzerland or the USA, or you live in the USA and you're going to be moving to Australia, whatever. They wanted me to write some advice about how to settle down in that country and in that town, but not wait until you get there. The things that you have to put in place before you move to help you settle down. And they wanted me to do that because I'm a coach, and I do life coaching as well. And I could put some stuff down about, how to keep your confidence levels high, how to stay positive, the things you can put in place before you go. And they found that really interesting, and off it went to the website and got published. So that's what I mean about talking about things you can do for people rather than your business per se. So what I need you to do is think about mining your life and your business for stories that intersect, things that you can talk to people about that actually give them some value. So think about, make a long list of all the things you could talk about that people would be interested in and would impress the journalists. Sadly, journalists are not interested in the fact that you have won an award or that you are opening a new store in a different town. That they're really not going to be interested unless it's a B2B magazine. So if you are a bus company and you are, you're extending your bus fleet, it might be that B2B magazine about buses, so businesses talking to businesses about buses would pick up on that, but certainly a consumer magazine wouldn't. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is doing your homework. Now, if you watched the video yesterday, I did cover some of this there in a slightly different way, and I'm just going to cover it again now, because it's so important. I just want you to imagine for a minute that you're going for a job interview and you haven't bothered finding out about the company, you haven't thought about what questions you might get asked or might want to ask, you haven't been on LinkedIn to see who some of the members of staff are that might be working there, you haven't thought of anything you might say, you'd possibly be very unlikely to get the job, I would think. And that's how it is in the press, really. If you contact someone saying, you know, I want to be in your magazine or on your website or whatever it is, and you haven't done your homework, it's like thinking you're going to get a job without knowing anything about the job. And journalists get this all the time, and it's almost like saying to them, you don't care about them and their audience, you just want this coverage, which obviously is not a great message to send out. So it's really important that you do some homework. Like I said yesterday, just research the magazine or the website or whatever it is that you're pitching to an nth degree. You know, just who you think they serve, who their audience is, what sort of things they're producing, how they talk to people. It'll really stand you in good stead. And also, like I said yesterday, for every contact that you make sure you do it in a style that suits that particular place. Don't just have one pitch that you send to all sorts of different places. It has to be tailored to the individual needs. So do lots of homework, folks. We all love a bit of homework, don't we? Number 4 on my list of things to talk to you about is press releases. Being able to write a press release is a really good skill, and it's again one that I teach on my course, because in some cases it is quite a useful thing. And that's usually if you're maybe a charity and you've got some news you want to share with the newspaper, or this is where you might talk, if you're a B2B person or in the B2B industry, you might send a press release to a B2B magazine around the fact that you've won an award. But generally they are very news driven, and journalists get a lot of them, and they are usually pretty much about the business. And like I said earlier, you don't want to be talking about your business, you want to be talking about, you know, what your business can do for people. So it's far more important to write a story than a press release. So that's called pitching rather than sending a press release. And it is a story about what you're wanting to feature, what's going to add value to their readers, whereas a press release doesn't do that. So if you've got a good story idea, a clear email that sets out what the story is, what the title of it might be, whether you've got pictures or not to go with it, can be very short and concise, unless they've asked you to send the whole feature in to start with, is generally what works. So don't send any press releases is point number 4. And I'm really keen on this one because as an editor myself, you would not imagine how many press releases you get across your desk and in your computer, and most of them end up in the bin, I'm afraid to say. And my last point is to try and find out the exact person you need to speak to when you pitch in your story idea, or if you're going to call them, or whatever you've decided to do. That'll really increase your chances of getting the coverage if you talk to the right person. Because sometimes you can send things in perhaps to a generic email, or somebody will take a message for you and say, I'll pass it on to the right person, but you've no guarantee it's going to get where it needs to go. So again, do some research around that. Most places, if it's if you're pitching to a magazine, for instance, it could be a commissioning editor or a features editor or the editor. If it's online, it might be the owner of the website, or again, they might have a feature editor. You'll find that many magazines will have what we call a flannel panel, where all their staff are listed, and even if their email address isn't listed there, if you can get the generic email for that publisher, so maybe it's first name, last name at whateverpublisher.com, then every member of staff within that organisation will probably follow that same pattern. So first name, last name at whicheverpublication.com. So you can work it out generally what the contact details are, even if they aren't in the magazine. Obviously, online is a great place to look. If you want to talk to a publisher, or you want to talk to a production editor of a TV show, then getting on Twitter and tracking them down that way is also a really good thing to do. So just try and find the right person to talk to and you'll have much more success.